So, what can you tell me about your history with merchant bankers?
Huh. Merchant bankers, my long and illustrious history with merchant bankers. Um, okay, I'll tell you the story, and then you can jump in whenever you want. So I was teaching at a college program at Smith College one summer, 2004, long time ago, and one of the other, there were four faculty members in it, and one of them was this guy from Smith College, a professor of English. We started having lunch together, and at some point he's like, I heard you used to play drums or something like that. And I was like, yeah, I did. He said, oh, want to be in a band? And I was like, maybe. And so then we had this conversation. I decided to go buy a drum set, and one of his good friends, another professor there, was a guitarist and songwriter, and we just kind of like formed a band just based really on liking each other and knowing each other a little bit and feeling comfortable around each other. So it wasn't like some great musical alliance. It was really just like three guys who liked hanging out and talking about soccer and food and beer and stuff like that. But it became really important to me really quickly. I was pretty bad. It'd been like 15 years since I'd played drums, so like the skill level was low.
Mhm.
The two of them were more accomplished musicians, but we kind of grew together and spent a lot. We did almost all original material, and we would basically every Friday afternoon was rehearsal day, starting at like 2 o'clock when I was done teaching, and so we work on songs and then drink some beer and have a nice time and talk about teaching. We're all teachers at colleges. So we had a lot in common, a lot to talk about. But I think the social part of it was really the most important part to me. Like just connecting with these two other guys who I came to feel really close to and became very close friends with one of them. And like musically, it was a really cool outlet to have a proper creative outlet in a way that I hadn't in a long time. I'd been a writer creatively, and like that was one outlet, but it came to feel like work. It came to feel like something that was really that I had to force myself to do. And I never had to force myself to play music because it was always like I'm barely mediocre. I'm never going to
Mhm.
be really good at this. So I could just kind of have fun with it versus writing. It's like I'm supposed to be good at this. And it was like the pressure was higher.
Yeah.
So playing music was always like the bar is really low. I'm going to screw some things up. I'm going to make some mistakes, and that's okay because we're like writing songs together and this is fun. And then we did start playing out, and that was pretty nerve-wracking for me, but it was also a lot of fun, like just to the fact that people seemed to appreciate what we were doing and they were into the music we were making. It was like, this is pretty great. And again, I just really liked it as a creative outlet that wasn't writing. um, so that's kind of the story. So we did that from 2004
How old were
to
you
about,
then?
I was 37.
In 2004?
Yeah. So we did that from then to about 2016, something like that. So we were pretty active for about 12 years. The three of us, we took in a couple of extra members at different times, but they didn't quite pan out. And then at some point, I think I, more than the others, just kind of like lost some of my interest in being in a band. Also, some of the venues that we had been playing in around Northampton and other towns were no longer booking, live original bands. Like there used to be a really thriving music scene for like
Yeah.
indie bands in and around
Did you
Northampton.
ever play at the Iron Horse?
No, we never quite made it to that level. We played some pretty good places with like, I mean, dedicated, music performance venues, but alas, we did not make it to the Iron Horse. But yeah, we had some good shows attended by like decent numbers of people, which in that world is like 30 or 40 people came just because it was our band.
Yeah.
Um, and so that was cool. And we made a CD, and I was kind of like the recording engineer. I had a studio in my house. That's where we practiced and recorded. And that was a lot of fun to me, like learning music engineering and recording and all that stuff. I got really into like all the techie side of how to record music. And because I was the drummer, like drums are one of the hardest things to record.
Yeah.
So I spent days and days and months just like playing around with recording drums.
Were you using like analog recording technology or like
Now all digital.
digital? Yeah,
Yeah, Reaper was the name of the software that we used.
not
Um,
familiar with that one.
it's pretty good. Well, it was free at the time, and it was quite robust. Like you could do anything you wanted in Reaper. It
Mm.
was really powerful, but it fit the budget. You know.
Are you still in touch with your roommates?
Um, on and off here and there, not so much
Yeah,
anymore. It's like our lives have kind of diverged a little bit, and I think
yeah.
it's like, well, that's okay. We had this thing, and it was really important to us. We might get together over the summer and watch some of the World Cup because we're all big soccer
Mm-hmm.
fans, and all big fans of the England soccer team in particular. Because one guy is from England, one of the guitarist and songwriter, he's from England, and I was born in England, so we and the other guy is like a major English literature scholar. So we're all Anglophiles to use the shorthand. So yeah, we might get together this summer and watch some World Cup, root for England.
Do you still drum?
I have not. I packed up my drums when we did some renovations in the house, and every week or so I walk by them in the basement. I'm like, it's a terrible way to treat your drum kit.
Yeah.
It's this beautiful like it's not particularly beautiful, but it's meaningful to me. It's a late '60s Slingerland, made in the U.S. Pretty classic drum sound, and I like it. I love the way it looks. It's all black. It's kind of beat up, but it's got serious character, like much better than so many of the modern day drum kits you can get.
You got a lot of ladybugs.
I got a ton of them. I hate them, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. Like I said, I'd say kind of equal parts the social connection, the creative outlet, and kind of the technical side. Once we got into recording an album or CD, and then like actually having fans, like having some fans and like performing for people and getting that feedback. So that was my experience.
So there's a common, I want to call it trend, but lack of a better word, that people put their hobbies and passions on the back burner to focus on family and work. Do you feel like that happened to you, or like what was
Now,
your experience with that?
if anything, it was more the opposite, really, which is like, this was not a big commitment for us. It was Friday afternoons, and occasionally
It was just a
playing out.
hobby. Just,
Totally, totally just a
yeah,
hobby. We knew, we never had any goals of making any money
yeah.
or getting signed to a record deal. It was always just for fun and to maybe have a few people who appreciated the music.
Do you think your age had any influence on that mindset?
What in terms of being older or younger or
Older, of like this is just a
oh
hobby.
yeah,
We're not
yes.
trying to do anything serious.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right because when I was in bands through high school and college, we had aspirations,
Like
you know?
we're gonna play stadiums,
Yeah,
this and that. We're gonna get signed to Geffen and
it was kind of like that.
whatever.
Okay, I was never in a band that was good enough to have any meaningful aspirations, but it was still kind of in the back of your mind like let's keep getting better and writing better songs and who knows what might happen. With this band, it was always kind of like, yeah, we're nothing special. Let's just have fun with this. That I think was the result of being a little bit older and you shift out of your aspirational phase in life, like I'm going to do things and make people pay attention, to like, hey, is this fun for us? Are we enjoying
You're a
this?
little more humble. You're focused on you now.
Yeah, yeah. It's just
Than
about getting pleasure out of it and connecting with friends.
in the moment.
Yeah, yeah. That was much more about the friend connection, um, and just enjoying spending time with these two guys,
Yeah.
and everything else was kind of less significant.
So you mentioned that it came to a point where you kind of had to force yourself to drum. Are you familiar with the phrase "Don't make your passion your job"?
Oh yeah, and that's something. It's a great question. I've given that a lot of thought over the years. I mean, more so for me in connection with writing, and in part because I mentor, a lot of students who have a desire to make a future in writing. And I always kind of caution them about that, right? Because most of the ways, from everything I know and from like friends who went to grad school and so on, most of the ways you can actually make a living in writing, pretty awful, right? It's like technical writing, grant writing. I have a friend who is like the most gifted short story writer I ever encountered in person in grad school. The guy was brilliant, really, really great writer. And he wanted to make writing his career. I knew I wanted to make teaching my career.
Mm.
And he was a good teacher, but he wasn't really into it in the way that I was. He got a job working as a technical writer for some company in Tennessee. And he was talking to me about it one night, and he's like, Fred, I hate it so fucking much. It's
Yeah.
awful. He's like, can I tell you? It's like last week, my major project was to like write the warnings that go on soap dispensers that the company was selling. And he's like, it's the worst. I want to kill myself, but they're paying me so much freaking money.
Yeah.
He's like, I like my life. I'm taking good care of my family, so I'll keep doing this. But he hated it. So like he made his passion
Yeah.
into his livelihood, and I think he came to regret it for the most part. And I was like,
Yeah.
I don't ever want to do that. But I was never good enough as a musician to follow that
Because
passion.
I still kind of feel that way now, but there was a stage in my life where I was like, I want to write for like TV shows and movies. Like I want to be a SNL writer, blah 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 blah. But like, there's so many writers' strikes. Like they don't compared to like a teacher. Like you guys have your own union.
Yeah.
Like
Well, it's just so hard to break in. I mean, even if you're brilliant and you have great ideas, and even if I would say, even if you kind of have a little bit of some connections, your chances of landing one of those jobs and holding on to it and making a career from it, I mean, they're just
yeah,
so it's basically like getting to the NBA, right?
yeah. I mean that any entertainment industry is cutthroat compared to like education.
Yeah, they'll let anybody do this. um, yeah, so I think that's I caution students
Yeah.
about that all the time. Like if there's a way to find or to adapt your passion in a way. But yeah, I mean, especially in the field of writing, but I think also in the field of music, all the creative outlets, they are so cutthroat. It's so hard to actually make a living doing any of them. Got to think twice about that. You're just going to end up giving music lessons to like grumpy, lazy 14-year-olds for the rest of
Yeah.
your life. So who wants that?
Would you say that your experiences as a teacher, musician, and parent have benefited each other?
Teacher, musician, parent. I don't think, I think they might benefit me personally by having these spheres of life
Yeah.
that allow me to do very different things, right? I might be a lot of things to a few different people, but I don't think I'm one dimensional. It's like, so I get to inhabit different roles. As a teacher and mentor, I get to do the thing that has been my life's passion, right? Which is to teach young people and kind of mentor them and coach them a little bit. That's been my life's professional passion. The other things are things that just make me a more whole human being. I think that make me interesting to myself. I don't know about anybody else, but it's nice to have multiple things that you care deeply about, that you're passionate about, so that you're not just one thing all
Yeah.
the time.
I can rephrase it. Like, do you think your experiences, like as a teacher, have helped when parenting, or vice versa?
I don't know about that. If I almost wonder if it would be the opposite, right? If like it made me in some ways a worse parent, just because the big one is that as a teacher, I have pretty close to complete control. I can be a complete
It's a very
authoritarian.
technical mindset.
Well, I get I get to be in charge of everything.
Yeah.
And when you have a kid, you got to kind of weigh, especially when they get to a certain age, like you will start developing your own autonomy and convictions and desires that I can't necessarily control. And that was challenging for me as a parent. It's like, I think you should do this thing. You don't want to do that? Oh crap. Now what do I do? I'm not used to this.
Yeah.
I mean, like with students, if they say, "Oh, I don't feel like doing that thing," I'm like, "Okay, you take the F and move on with life. That's all right." But you can't do that with a kid. So
Was there a point where you felt you had to neglect one aspect to focus more on another?
no, I don't think so. I mean, I've been able to keep those things pretty well
Yeah.
in balance, like creative endeavors, professional endeavors, parenting. But I benefit greatly from having the kind of job I do because it means I have time to be creative, to explore things that are important to me, to also, be a parent. Um, so yeah, I've got a lot more time and
Yeah.
a lot easier life than many people do in their professional roles.
When you were still playing, what was your life like balancing all those factors?
Oh, it was never really a problem. I mean, sometimes I think I felt really busy, like trying to squeeze everything in that I needed to do. But it always worked. Like if I had had a standard 9 to 5 and some Saturdays, like I couldn't have done it all. Um, but yeah, for me, it was relatively, it was very manageable. But I know that it's not for a lot of people.
When did you start drumming?
Oh, I was 14.
14? Okay.